Alrighty, daily trading recap for this Monday, the 29th of November, 2021. We've got one more day left in this month of November before the super hot, apparently, we'll take whatever the market gives us, month of December, but second to last trading day of November on the day. SPY, a nice overall market, a nice little bounce from the kind of scare, new coronavirus variant scare last trading day on the half day Friday of last week, the day after Thanksgiving. Nice little recovery bounce day. We're showing 1.23% up on SPY in the green. VIX pulling back again. Kind of like I mentioned, just we see this time and time again that for whatever reason we have this little volatility jump or scare. It's just kind of a one-time event thing unless it's another March of 2020 panic, which then just skyrockets the volatility in the VIX that way. But it's just we get these little peaks and just they continue to always for some reason want to come back to that main stem of where we've been trading. So just kind of another data point to follow in that collection follow in that collection plot again today on that one. For market volume today, we're checking, let's see, boop. We are checking, I just got rid of it again. Okay, here we go. NASDAQ dollar volume, $247 billion. NYSE, $304 billion volume. And OTC markets, $2.5 billion volume as of hour and a half after the close. So kind of maybe subpar a little bit from what we've been seeing past few trading days, trading week. Other than that, let's kind of for the afternoon plays today, I would also categorize there was some opportunities out there, and it's normally I would expected to see over the past few months that I just really was not even tempted to play any afternoon type of trade, but also that I'm kind of pairing that alongside with I'm in more of the paper trading realm as well too. I do feel more free to be experimental and just play with a lot of these, and kind of did find some in QLGN, some other movers that offered a little bit of poppage in the afternoon session, maybe the power hour, if we'd like to call it that. But also just funny or interesting note to see that in the Sykes Millionaire chat, not a lot of red names going off in the afternoon session. Maybe they were just taking off or coincidental today maybe on that, but just interesting to see that maybe they're not playing as hard either, which could be an indicator that I just may be pulling something out of thin air with that or potentially seeing something that they aren't, but we'll continue to watch it go hard in that. And again, I'll mention too with all of these I have restricted myself now to full paper trade, besides some of these longs that I do with 1 share, 2 share size, $20 max position size that I do on the long side through my cash account here. But other than that, through shorting, it's all paper. It's all just through TradingView, through kind of just switching in and out of trying to, it's tough with pre-market as well too with TradingView because I can't do it on pre. So just saying, okay, I'm mentally short here and writing it down saying, okay, here I'm in at this position with this size and blah, blah, blah. But still a process, still going through it, and I still really love the opportunity and freedom it does give me mentally too. And I think it makes me a totally different trader than how I used to be, just so secluded and reserved to, I'm just going to use my one trade today, and it ended up being a loser again, stopped out. And then I was just kind of done. I took a way back seat the rest of the market trading day. When it was like, when I would get in a rut, like I was in for a very long time, still probably haven't gotten out of it on the real side, but getting in that, it's, the thesis for me was, or the thesis that I always want to continue to hold myself to, even though there's so many perspectives to attack it, to say, but, relating it again to, if you want to get better at pull-ups, you got to start doing more pull-ups. And the same thing with trading. If I'm in a rut or in a little rough streak, red streak with trading, got to start trading more, getting through it, just going through all of the processes and taking it on more and more and more. And yeah, always understanding this perspective of, okay, well, maybe it's just so far gone that, okay, it's vacation time, take a step away from the market and that side to it. But for me, I'm totally in the realm too that I've never gone full bore on the other side where it is just so fully experimental and playful and just being loose and free and attacking these things with absolute zero emotional connection to them and going from it about there and understanding the perspective of that. I can get a little bit too loosey-goosey and too gung-ho that I'm just kind of pushing buttons randomly and seeing red and green lights go. But I think I'm finding a very nice happy medium with where I'm at right now in being free enough to just say, hey, I'm looking to get short this stock. Whereas I would absolutely never be looking to short a lot of these stocks that I was shorting today, or looking to go longer, take these afternoon plays, or take the little VWAP old style of trades with a longer account with big position size through a normal trade through my cash account, through the margin account, through the sub PDT account. Because I was always holding myself to, do I want to use up this cash today on that trade? Do I want to use up a day trade on that one, especially on the short side, which was a total different dilemma, but continuing to grind away with this paper trading account, and I'm still loving it so far. So that little update for the introduction here. Let's get into my close up there. Let's get into YBCD. I wanted to mention first, or YCBD. I've typed that in wrong about 38 times right now. Don't know why. Morning's up du jour. Awesome little strategy that I still am not so confident in this morning dump setup that I used to trade for a long time back in April, June, July-ish. That was slam dunking pretty well, or May, April-ish. That we just see this pre-markets perk off of nice catalyst volume. They have a news catalyst with, was this the one with, oh no, that was the next one with the Lamborghini. But what was new here? Multi-year partnership with a company that was partnered with Amazon. So trying to use a lot of buzzwords on this one. 39 million floater, so not so crazy low of a float, but very nice move. Percentage-wise, with decent volume, love the overhead on the daily on this one. Just a continual bleeding long if you're trying to bag hold this one. So any pop, any sort of perk of life in this one is just a very nice move to sell into if anybody's still holding this one and willing to wake up this early in the market to try and at least take off some of the hurt on their dying position over the long term. I was picking tops with this one. Beautiful little plus 10% that I traded paper. Yeah, it totally in my head because it's not being able to trade that pre-market through TradingView, but a little easier top to pick here if we're just kind of cutting this off to see. We get this exhaustive volume top. I don't like that perspective still. Maybe that. This is a little better. But looking at the volume perspective more so, we see this bigger red candle as the kind of top for, as it reached the top of the volume, top of price action. So easy to kind of see or hold that risk level too to say, yes, I'm respecting price level here. If it does start to get above that 255 mark, then I'm going to say, okay, well, do I really want to be holding this? Am I, and it's still such a raw strategy too that I've just kind of been going along with of, okay, looking for that exhaustive 1 minute volume candle perk to see where are the buyers and sellers kind of peaking out, where is price kind of leveling here, where are we going to see that turn, and just playing in the fire more and more to see, is there any advantage, is there any key takeaway similar to like an OTC penny dip buy where it's almost very easy to see, okay, bid's stacking up now, ask is maybe slipping away, or ask is getting bought into very heavily here, can seeing the turn on that. Is there something similar with these pre-market small cappers? Sometimes with these ones, they do have a hard V turn that we can like to see, but other times it's develops over 5 minutes, 10 minutes that the top is being put in, and then you can see the actual turns start to happen. So just continuing to try to hammer those and get any amount of advantage that I can on these ones. So this was a nice little respective top pick to get anywhere around 245-ish to 2.5 there as a position starter. Nice little trade that as it breaks to the downside, falls under VWAP. And I was mentally getting out, covering here in this little stutter step just above like 2.2, just because I felt that the market sentiment, the character of these movers, of these charts as of right now is they do pull back under VWAP, but then it becomes a fake out. ISPC comes to mind. KTTA comes to mind from last week. That was a nice little perk mid-session today. KTTA was a great thinking along the lines of what it could potentially do. So I was just playing off of the basis similar to this where, okay, yes, we do have a pull under VWAP, but do not get comfortable, do not get greedy with it and just try to bag hold this thing till death do its part. But just playing, it certainly offered that throughout the entire pre-market and even into market hours, still dumping within that first 15 minutes for a nice and easy little comfortable sit as a short. If I was willing to ride that fine line of paying attention to the level 2 in time of sales, but also not at the same time. With these ones in this strategy especially, it's such a fine line for me of getting so involved with the level 2 in time of sales and saying, okay, well, we just got bought up twice in these 2 minutes periods with nice volume. This could be a bottom here. It could start pulling back up to VWAP, and it could play around until morning bell. So maybe covering a full position, 75% of the position here, and then holding the rest here for this point of, but it's, yeah, those are the type of mind games that sometimes watching too much at level 2 and time and sales can get me into versus having to play these as a quant, as a data statistician almost, to say, I know that 75% of these, after they break to the downside of VWAP from that initial perk, if the initial perk is above this much and the float is this much and we have this much volume, if the overhead and the daily on this is this much, or blah, 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 all these different factors, trying to play it data-wise that way. But the same thing too, of just the feel of it, of understanding, of respecting price, to say, we're still under VWAP, or if I'm holding a position from that top here, or even if I'm getting a normal entry, what I consider at that inflection point of breaking, being able to unsustain VWAP there, a position from there to say, gosh, we've not even come close to breaking that point as a risk level for me, or even using a risk level at the high of day still. Man, just hold that thing and just go until price says to you, and using price as the boss. So many different ways to go about these ones, but yeah, continuing to refine it and get the experience and the wherewithal on these more and more every single day. Naked, I also wanted to mention, former runner, a decent little perk today, not the most awesome, but the same thing of looking on this daily too. This one is just one of those that just eggs you on to say, use me as a long-term swing long, just bag hold me, because I'm not gonna like die completely. I'm certainly not gonna just go immediately. There's no telling when the return of this thing is or could ever come, but golly, it's like still kind of hold, like 60 is kind of a little level, and you can use this, maybe another little bottom here, 47-ish, and that's certainly a wide range in itself, but it's just like, oh, the potential. Super high float. It's, taking it today for dollar volume, it's like you need north of 500 million in order to control the float on this one. So the likelihood that it could happen again, comparing that to like a YCBD, which you only need like 50 million to control the float on that one today. It's just tough to say when and where and what kind of news catalyst or what kind of promotion this one would need in order to get an actual huge surge like it had a crazy long time ago. Start of the year this year. Was that with? No, whatever. But yeah, again, looking at it from a pre-market perker is a cool name. It's like a fake off of Parker. But again, of the signs that we're looking for of, okay, we get the pre-market spike, still maintaining above VWAP, pressing the new high of day, but pulling off as we're getting kind of exhaustive volume candle tops here. Even topping it at like 77, it's still a pretty long way to hold it to a 10% move, which I would consider kind of my minimum for these ones. And really all trades that I want to look for is that 10% point, which can kind of be a double-edged sword at times of trying to force more than there's really in on these trades, but also a good parameter set for me too. That's, hey, why are you wasting your time trying to scalp these 2% movers? Look for better risk rewarders on some of these, but still taking what's there. On these ones, the news catalyst today was their merger company that they had merged with. They had EV news today, so trying to still hit a little bit of a buzzword. It's not such a crazy hot sector of an EV right now. And you can see the sentiment of the market to hop in on that EV news as well just wasn't there today. And death do us part the whole way. High of day being put in at that morning bell and getting short anywhere around that. Failure to maintain VWAP is an awesome little trade. Nice little scalp, not a scalpy trade, but nice little sit as a short. For me, in my opinion, on that one, APDN, get into now. This one was really one of my top watches with LGVN. I'm still trying to maintain just kind of 2 watches for stocks. That's really my range mentally of what I can put hard focus on, because I still do need to be putting in a just consistent and hard focus on level 2 time and sales, watching what's going on and watching price action specifically. Whereas, it's always funny and tough to watch the Matt Monacos and the Tuis or whoever else trade live. They can be doing 30 things at once for how routine and how many times they've done this, the experience they already have, but versus me, which I still feel I'm in that space of, okay, I'm on this stock right now. I need to be disregarding everything else in the world and focusing on this absolute one. All of my mental focus needs to be right here, right now. So this was one of my 2 that I wanted to do that with today. And I really wanted to see what the plan was on this one. And it was good to hear that Jack number 2 actually had kind of similar thing that he was looking for today, even though he was already short. He already played it, I'm guessing, from this failure here. earlier on in pre-markets, but was wanting to see any amount of reclaim to VWAP, any amount of perk, whether even in pre-market like I kind of did with LGVN, or waiting a little bit for more of like a dip and rip potential setup to short into the rip during market hours. So whether within that first 1-2 minutes, whether we got just kind of a top being put in or just exhaustive volume that was really going to be all the buying pressure on the day, because there was plenty of other places to place the attention for the retail traders today, getting short into any of those perks, or looking for a very respectable, a perfect respect of VWAP and then pull off from there, trade like that. This one actually did that pretty nicely. When was that day? The 5th. Let's go back to there, show that quick of how it did that pretty much exact same thing. And that was one that I did, I think I did that paper side, or actually did it for real, or watch the same thing of, we get a nice little, this was not as much drawn out of pre-market action to go off of, but you get the perfect little move to VWAP here, and a little bit sketchier, a little bit wider of a spread potentially, but a perfect respect of a VWAP, kind of double tops here, but still maintaining that risk point as from a declining VWAP. Nice percentage move, nice trade, an easy sit the whole rest of the morning and even into the afternoon session on that one for APDN. So kind of playing, hoping for, or just preparing for a similar type of move off of that thesis today. Not that these ever, I've failed to ever see some of these repeat the same type of action a second day within a month of these doing a similar thing previously. But just kind of getting the feel for the characteristic of the stock of how it likes to trade. And similar to, what was the one on, the one that was similar to PTPI, BIOL, was that Friday of last week, or whenever that one was, of how similar it looked to that PTPI chart, or how BIOL acted in the past too. The same thing of, it just kind of dumps. You get the days like these that just, whether it doesn't want to react or respond to those similar days in the past, or just moves how it wants to move. And that's how this one was today. High of day, kind of being put in right at that market open. And you just get a nice little easy morning short sit for that one. Those are the types of trades that I kind of like to be a part of. It's just an easy turn off almost fully the level 2 in time of sales and just get ready to cover. Put in your order at 10% to cover and just have a nice little easy morning sit. And then you can go to the beach and sip your mimosa with your huge profits on the day. That's kind of trading that I love to be a part of and love just get into, of just playing the trend. The trend is your friend. Huge amount of overhead on this one. Just having a nice, easy little sit on this one. History of one and doners. But it just didn't happen today. So not able to really trade it or get into it or force a chase on this one, which I was very much opposed to. So glad I stayed away in that sense as well. LGVN I'll get into now. Again, this nice, crazy mover, crazy parabolic we are still in. And this little trend of, you get a nice green day, kind of red rest day the next day after. Huge green day, red rest day the next day. Huge green day, short squeeze the next day, red rest day. So still being very, very cautious to say, okay, is this trend going to continue? Are we going to continue to go crazy? Or is the truth going to come out at some point that this thing just can't continue to go up? It's got to come down at some point. You can't just continue to extend these rubber bands over and over again. So as we get this little perk in pre, I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is the top here, and maybe it's just going to get a nice little pullback to VWAP before market open, and then we get a hard sell-off out of the gate, and that pushes it down lower, and this looks like I look like an absolute genius with that short. So just starting in with a little pre, and again, getting very, very experimental with all of these. I think I was just so restrictive, like I mentioned in the introduction, of just like, well, I only got one day trade, and I don't really want to get too crazy with these. You know, these, the Jack number 2s and all those, the Jackaroos, they can throw that crazy size out there, or these kind of crazy trades. But, you know, I'm going to stick to what I know, and I'm stick to what I do because I'm a better trader than them, right? But totally opening myself up and broadening my horizons for these types of trades, of saying, I really don't know if this could work. Sometimes I've seen this in the past. I was like, oh, that kind of would have been would have been a good short opportunity on that one. But it's just like, I definitely wouldn't have wasted a day trade on it. Whereas with these ones, it's just like, it's all paper, man. Just experiment and play with the data. And I'm still holding myself accountable to those losses and not getting just reckless and YOLO with it, but definitely just taking stabs because why would I not? I have to experiment. I have to know who I am as a trader, know how these work, and being in them paper-wise especially draws me in far more than I would be just kind of still looking at other charts or just eyeing it and seeing, okay, there's a potential short there, but then just kind of looking away because I knew I wouldn't get short actually with my sub-PDT account on this one. But getting short pre, kind of still holding, and glad I was able to cut just before market open because it was holding still well, and I knew how wide of a spread it was going to be today, which was a very, very wide spread on this one. And just how volatile that morning was going to be. This thing has done it time and time again of just ludicrous morning volatility of what it wants to do as it's finding its way. You just get out of the way one way or another. Just let it do what it wants to do, and it's going to show you pretty pristine opportunities at times. But you got to get in there quick and get out before it immediately reverses on you again. So this one, it's just kind of playing with fire again, as it's, call it a little bit dying out or drawing out of this crazy, super insane, volatile range that it's been in. So now looking for more of that downside to say I'm very short bias on this one now, but still absolutely 100% respecting the ability for this thing to just squeeze crazy. So starting in, as I was looking at other trades, it came back to this one, or from market open, I was totally biased short side. Hey, I'm looking for a longer term short play on this one for more of a swing short position. Where is a potential position to start sizing in on this one and shoot. As I was breaking to new low of days here, I'm going, crap, okay. Is that my last entry point? Am I stupid to short here? Is this going to be bottom? It's a little dip buy opportunity. It's going to get bought up to VWAP and press to a new high of day. Absolutely 100% correct on that one. That's why I was wrong. That's why I'm doing paper trading now still on these short ideas. But in the same thing of, man, I'm covering where potentially it should get started in short on these, of how many times I've done that on real trades as well too, that I end up covering and getting out when they kind of those are the tops for where it should be nice short trades. I'm doing the reverse of what I should be doing actually on these. Stupid little trade there that's shorting the bottom, covering the top, but still going along with the same thesis in mind of, I really think this thing is lacking momentum. If this thing was still crazy, had some juice left in it, I think we would have seen a squeeze into a halt. And maybe that's just because the circuit breakers have just been open wide on these ones because of they know what the average range on these ones is. But I just really think it wasn't a lot of buying pressure today too, which is interesting to note on a Monday morning with crazy volatility, everybody coming off the holiday weekend just ready to attack these. I would have thought we would have seen far crazier after this new high of day break than actually was there. So the same thesis was, I think that top's being put in. There's plenty of room to come down on the daily with this one, even if, looking to cover as kind of a minimum point here, the first point of inflection for me in my mind is this $15 mark of the risk reward at that point. Should it squeeze against me? Yeah, it's going to be a tough cut, but the profit opportunity that I'm looking for, my target, I think there's plenty of room. Look out below for the bag holders that are still potentially in this, and the amount of shorts that are just chomping at the bit, waiting to get to load into this thing. Second red day in a row now too. I certainly think there's plenty of opportunity there. Not crazy, ridiculous borrow fees from Trade Zero, and the same thing on BFRI, which I'm also shorting overnight as well, kind of holding. This one was, I thought we were going to get more opportunity to scale into as a short. That's why I got like 10 shares, even paper trading short, because I thought I was going to get a little bit more opportunity. Maybe taps 30 again. Maybe it taps this 31 level mark and then starts to pull back into the close here. So it's rough to say that I only got $280 position size on this one on the paper side even. But still short nonetheless, still pushing that thesis hard and hard on these ones that I need to open myself up more and more to say, okay, wow, now I need to... it's tough with the overnight borrow fees on that one. But even that is, in my book, is still better than, how should I put it? Of utilizing the kind of escape or rendezvous away from using up a day trade through the overnight process, I think is far better than just kind of knocking my head or picking up nickels on the overnight borrowing fee process. complicated words in my head, but yeah, pushing that overnight more and more on these ones, and I think we could have a nice little gap down. If it does start to go crazy and parabolic, then I will learn my lesson. ISPC has certainly shown that we can just do that crazily and randomly whenever it wants to. So again, that's why this is paper, and that's why I'm just continuing to stay cautious, even with that 10 share position size on the paper side. I'm staying cautious that way. Always, 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 and forever, and especially on the short side with that. Mentioning, I wrote in my journal too, that we could have had this little reclaim because ISPC was also reclaiming as well and squeezing pretty hard on the day. We'll get into that chart in a little bit, but we could have had this little move maybe in sympathy a little bit to that as well for how these two have kind of been running, but maybe not whatsoever. It's just a little play off of high of day there. But that was LGVN. Let's get into PTPI now. PTPI. Oh gosh, yeah, I was playing in and out on this one so many times a day. They got me again. This was my biggest loss in a long time. Was that back on Tuesday for trying to short it, but again, that was broker problems. That wasn't me actually playing a trade on this one. Far more data in pre-market, I would say, are more of a sell-off into market open on that Tuesday versus today, where we get a news catalyst today, or this was just a squeeze. It was squeezing, kind of a third day play last week, trading day Friday, and then huge squeeze into today, where man, just kind of get this perks craziness, hard pullback under VWAP. This is 2.5 hours before market open, then kind of comes back again. Just loving to trade in this wide and volatile range. It's just saying, ha, look at me go. I'm a little schoolboy. We get still under VWAP as we get into market open. Then we get the perk immediately to VWAP, where I'm thinking short thesis of, okay, this could be the exhaustive volume candle on the day that just is all the buying pressure that we see, and this could be an immediate reject off of that. So, hey, why not? Let's play this trade. Immediately wrong from there. We get more buying power to come in, push this thing to a new high of day, and continuing to kind of learn and adapt to these picking top trades. In no way, shape, or form do I want to become a picking top trader or have that a part of my playbook that I know how to pick tops better than the frickin' bottom, right? Wow, that was bad. But, gosh, yeah, just are there any advantages to it? Because sometimes I can totally see it. On QLGN, it was a pretty obvious one to see that was the top being put in. On some of these ones, I try to pick a top here at this point. Okay, suck it, Kit. Took a loss there. It's back to a new high of day. Respect price. And then we get the huge perk with volume. Maybe a minute, maybe 2 minutes like it did twice here of pullback. Spike to a new high of day from there. So I tried 2 little attempts here picking tops off of, again, the same type of exhaustive volume candle movage. The 9:38 Eastern Standard Time move there of huge exhaustive volume candle. It's going to take a lot in order to push this thing again crazily higher. And it did have just whatever reserves or fumes left in it to push it to a new high of day, where I was forced to cover again after this little top, but that was the top for this little short trade thesis. Just looking to play anything back to VWAP. Maybe it breaks to the downside of VWAP. But that's such the life of the picking top short trader, which is really why I don't want to be part of it. It's just banging your head against the wall. You can be right so many times and then wrong so many more times. It's just so hard and tough to try and be profitable that way too on some of these ones that can be just so finicky like that. But then we get this little pullback. It fails to really dump under VWAP. And I'm thinking, okay, we could get a nice little VWAP hold trader here. I know it's going to happen at some point. I know it's going to be choppy and volatile, but I could just feel it in my bones. It's going to happen at some point. So I start in, as we start to break above this 410 area, it pulls back hard. Huge flash, huge volume push that still respects this bottom here, 388 of these two candles, still respects VWAP as well too. So I'm saying I'm not taking that thing off. It has not died hard at all. We still have this $4 level that it's clinging to, just kind of wrapping itself around. And then we do actually get a nice push here. Volume starting to come in. And I'm getting my finger ready on that sell button, because if this thing doesn't break to a new high of day, if it doesn't start to test for 4 area, I know this could be potential. Any point on this one, it could just be potentially dangerous, like BFRI showed today and QLGN showed today as well, for different, well, kind of for the same reasons as well. But in all of these, and always just being very cautious on both the long and short side as well. So I was able to get a little sell off, like a half sell off of my position here for 2-ish range. And then we did see a huge dump that slammed under VWAP. So great little experience to be a part of. And again, another one that had I been trading with real account, I probably would have been watching it and say, okay, I could see it kind of getting a little squeeze here, but wouldn't have taken a trade on it. Versus with this one, now I have another layer of experience to say, man, I was in those again, to be able to recognize, okay, I think we are not getting volume to come in to continue to push this thing. It's kind of just peaking out here at 4.2-ish range, taking off half, definitely maybe taking off whatever fraction, 5, 6, 6/7 of my position, a large majority, to say, I think we could get a little slam here. If it's not coming now, it could turn bearish pretty quickly. And that was a great example of that, and glad to be a part of for that one. And then, yeah, like I was mentioning, just chopping around. It's kind of immediately perking back above VWAP after that reject, but then pulling back down. You get another perk that looks nice again, but then pulls hard underneath to create a new little relative low here, but then continues to hold and just chop and chop and chop and chop. But then you do finally this move here, for whatever reason, as it's continuing to hold and consolidate, even after a harder, how many of these candles can you pick out like this big red candle here? That would be 12:11 Eastern Standard Time here on this one. That tries to go to 4.2 again, where it topped out here at 10:57 at this point here. So, okay, here's the point here. We're seeing some more volume come in, especially on that candle, but then it gets a reject again. But it's still holding VWAP here. So it's the range and risk profile that you have to hold on these. As the market is continuing to evolve and grow, it's continuing to get more wider and wider and wider and tougher to sit through, to be able to take those unrealized losses, to be sitting in those unrealized losses in order to, even though this trade still is technically working. But again, continuing to refine, where are the actual key points? Where are the huge volume perks? Is it worth waiting until, even if I'm getting a fill at 4.3, but understanding that the move is actually there, and then even having to sit through a break to the downside of that entry price, but knowing, hey, this trade is still potentially confirmed, even though it kind of rejected a new high of day here. So many layers to these onions, but understanding that, man, I just knew it in my bones that this one was going to have a VWAP hold. For how it's been trading, for how parabolic and crazy it is on the daily here. This is just the sentiment of the market. It's going to continue to grow crazier and more drawn out, like these ones, like this chart today, more and more in the future. QLGN and PTPI, I also wanted to play as the afternoon traders. QLGN obviously worked pretty well. PTPI just didn't. So taking little stabs. I think I actually did the, like I mentioned in the introduction, did these ones actually through my cash account, but 5 share position size. So $20 as it's holding VWAP here. But again, just getting so wicky, so wishy-washy, Willy Wonka-y. It did have a hard sell-off here, and I was able to get out kind of just before a harder panic cracked under VWAP that obviously a lot more longs were trying to play the same type of thesis as well on that one. Just one crazy one after another. I think that is all I wanted to mention on PTPI. Getting into QLGN now. Awesome little trader, awesome little afternoon one that I just, I cut way so short of the actual potential move on there. And disappointed in it, like a little bit, but also not at the same time, of just staying safe. And the CPIX mentality of, it's tough to watch it go so much further without you, but again, at the same time, I was right. And it's, I continue to learn more and more about what does a top look like? What does the actual end of a move, the reversal, start to look like? And you could say it was pretty easy to see here in this big red candle. Oh, okay, that's the end of the move. But this was actually from offering that was released on that one. Perfect timing. It was like $1.50 share on the offering though, like $8 million. So crazy why, or how it's like, if they manipulated to run it up just under $3, perfect timing for this offering to come out. Why they didn't do it at that price, but that's way out of my pay range. This one I traded a few days ago as well, and the same thing. I was surprised to see that it kind of had to call it a third day play on this one, or call it's the fourth day. But for how it's been holding a little bit in the morning session, I was surprised to see it continue to go so far after this little nice consolidation range here. Still respecting VWAP, continuing to push closer to that high of day 1.9 area. Get the actual break, pulls back, but respects this 1.8-ish range here. The little tops being put in at this point, and continuing on for a nice rip. And again, another buying point or circle drawing feature here at this point, just under 195 as it's building with volume. Man, I was just watching that price action to continue to rip, and I'm going, okay, yeah, that's a move there. Like, I would have been hard pressed to trade it, but this thing just kept going and going and going. Energizer Bunny. And like I mentioned with PTPI, I was just so telling myself that I do not want to be in the frame of mind of picking tops on these or just taking death by 1,000 paper cuts on these ones over and over again, of trying to do that, literal paper cuts. But again, the same thing of this is all experimental. This is why I'm paper trading in the first place, is to be experimental and saying, okay, I really think this is the top right here. Let's get short on the paper side. And pretty obvious and easy to see here. Exhaustive volume candle, big red top wiki, bottom wiki candle that shows the indecision coming in, and kind of reversal of this bigger, for some reason, bigger percentage move. A full kind of 10% perk comes all the way back to VWAP. Nice little downside off of that reversal trade pretty much immediately after that move. So it was what it was, is what it is. It do what it do. And like I mentioned with PTPI, this one was hitting that scanner, that afternoon holder, still holding to the upside of VWAP after the morning session. Perking, it looked like it failed to break to a new high of day, so maybe could have dissuaded some longs, but still not coming down to a little bit lower of a low, but still higher of a high on an afternoon scale. Again, here, another higher of a high, continuing to push and press, getting long 10 shares. I think I was through my cash account. Again, just keeping it super, super small, almost paper in a sense, watching it just to force myself to watch more of that level 2 price action, to be involved in it. Whereas, would I be using my cash account normally, still trying to trade bigger size? I wouldn't have been willing to use like a $200 position size. So I wouldn't have even been in the trade in the first place, because it's just like, oh, well, it's an afternoon trade. I don't trade afternoon a lot, so I'm just going to watch it. Versus this one was just an awesome experience, again, of being able to see, okay, well, we break a new little relative high here above 2.3, but it rejects. And now it's, okay, pulling hard down to 2.2, but respecting 2.2, getting bought up immediately. Okay, we're still hovering around 2.3, getting ready with stops in to say this thing could just absolutely dump at any point. But still saying, hey, the thesis is still on. It still could go. Finally, volume comes in to start pushing this thing crazily. We're getting above 2.4, and I'm going through the, 10% in my head from where I was at, like 2.45-ish. But then it was just kind of like, 2.41, 2.42, just kind of stutter stepping. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take off half here. I'm not going to try and showboat it just for 1% or 2%. Take safe profits as they're there. Take the money when I can, not when I have to. We could actually blow through the upside of that one. So then we come down just below 2.5s, and it's kind of rejecting off of 2.5. I'm saying, okay, well, I'm going to take off a little bit more, maybe another 25% here. We come back under 2.5 again. Huge wall of sellers starts to show up at 2.5. I'm going, okay, well, that's a great sign for me to get out. That could be the actual top. But it wasn't. They just kind of disappeared. I looked as hard as I could. Didn't really find them shown on the tape anywhere, that maybe they just kind of cleared out and let this thing roll by it. Maybe that was their knowledge that they were going to have more opportunity to short this thing just a few minutes later. But it did end up going all the way to just under $3 left in the move. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier on it's tough to see it just continually ripping without you. I get a nice little 10% move there, just under a 10% move of a trade. But the disappointment, to say is the right word, but just learning more about these VWAP holes. And even like the sentiment for afternoon trades, it's like how many of these have gone farther than that percentage move for these afternoon style of trades. That's another factor in these too, of beating myself up like, oh, I didn't nail the move perfectly, but the same thing that I'm holding myself accountable to with the morning dump short setups and every setup is, what is the market currently saying about that style of trade? Is it offering that much percentage move? Should I be looking for that? Then I could certainly come back to this one and say, yeah, you were stupid to take off so early. But for this one today, I think it's taking safe profits as they were there and scaling out, of course. That's why, even though I do want to take smaller size, I do want to take more than just one share so I can be scaling out as I would with a larger position size. It's certainly going to be a practice of mine in the future, and great practice on this one today for a great little trade. And then freaking getting out of the way as you can. That's another great reminder on that one as well. ISPC, I'll mention now. Try and keep it quick, brief. They had the feel like Woody from Toy Story. Private placement, $21 million coming out. Open a pre-markets day. Dumping it pretty handily. But then still showing that you gotta be able to, when it fails to completely fail off after these offerings, after the private placements, they can get kind of squeezy. And this one especially too. You never turn your back on it as a short. Trying to hold it short overnight. You got screwed over last week Monday. Trying to hold it short overnight last week Wednesday. Got screwed over into that half day on Friday as well with huge pre-market squeezes. Same thing again. This thing just started going bananas. Cool guy to watch that I was watching live on YouTube, Relentless Trader. He had more of a scalping strategy, looking for literal cents on these ones for very, very quick scalps off of market orders, but still good to see different perspectives in these ones, to watch different guys, how they are watching it and the different perspectives they place on these style of charts. So great to watch that one as he was scaling in and out of this one through the halts, through the unhalts. This little nice move here all the way. Just continue to rip just under 29. Absolutely ludicrous. And he's like Jack number 2 put it on this one. This type of chart. You could call it, it's just a what the heck is going on type of chart. Why is it doing this? That's definitely when you don't want to be in it as a short and you're just like, why do you act the way you do? But you got to respect price at this point. And Jack number 2 was short actually, and it would have been, had he not covered like sub 16 he was in, and I think he was saying it would have been like 50K in losses for where he was at. Whereas now it's just a 6K cut loss to say, okay, respect price as it's there. But oh man, just how ludicrous this world that we're in of trading is. Absolutely bonkers. BFRI, last one I will mention. And they had an AK come out in the morning mentioning a $22 million settlement they're having to pay to some other company. Then 10 minutes later, they come out with the offering at, what was it? What price did we have? $15 million offering at $525. I think it's showing here. Just hammering these and always, again, respecting just don't be a bag holder. Don't be even if I am bag holding like my shorts and kind of the other longs for the afternoon plays of being ready on the trigger, having protection stops in place on these ones too, because they can just rip your face against you whenever they want to. It just doesn't matter what time of day, when and where you are. These things can go haywire. But then carrying along the same sentiment with ISPC, that doesn't mean you can just automatically get short and hop along for the train ride for even more free money to follow it. These things can just blow up in your face against you, coming to 2 obvious halts that I'm seeing here. It's just spiking against you. Like, why are you doing what you do? And trying to pick tops on these ones again are the same thing of just so many paper cuts to cut yourself up with. It's just like my hands are bleeding. I didn't do it on this one today too, but I could just totally see myself. That's why I mentioned with PTPI of, it's fun and easy sometimes, but a little too much. It's like cocaine. It starts to ruin your life. It's ludicrous. But it did have a harder sell-off coming into the close here. So this one, the same thing. Whereas, I want to be shorting ISPC as well, but it's just, I respect how many times it's squeezed in the after hours too much to get short to hold it overnight. So not like BFRI or LGVN couldn't do the same thing, but yeah, I definitely don't want to put my hand in the literal fire with ISPC trying to hold short overnight. So got a little like 740 average short on BFRI and LGVN as well too. So just looking to open myself up to, I have not shorted overnight in an extremely long time. The first time I did that, I lost like a crazy amount of money because it was a merger and I didn't read any of the news catalysts, and that was stupid. That's a totally different story of that learning lesson. And BFRI as well, I mentioned, wrote in my journal that not ridiculous borrowing fees for the locates through Trade Zero. So just continuing to go through the motions, get that experience for everything that I would be doing normally on a short position trade like this one. And it is short sale restricted, and kind of mentioning the same thing with ISPC, being very cautious in all of these and not trying to press my luck or B, just Zorro, or what am I trying to say? Football captain, team hero on these ones. Throw the Hail Mary. Just kind of trading what the trade I feel is there on these ones. I think these ones, the kind of top is being put in. We're still in this parabolic range. I think there's still plenty of downside to come down. And if it goes against, then respect that and move on. Do it again when it comes more on the downside. So those are all the trades I wanted to mention. Super long video today too. It's tough for me to say that these videos are just so long, but at the same time too, I want to be putting more work and preparation into these videos itself too, because it's helping me dive more into these stocks and dive more into my individual trades themselves and putting me in that review process. And I think this is a great way for me to journal and get more of my words out in a quicker amount of time, where I would be spending the same, if not double, trying to journal all of this, writing it down, and not really getting the same amount of volume on it. So watch list for me, PPSI, kind of going crazy parabolic here after the close. So we were watching that nice percentage move. If it doesn't look very strong tomorrow, if we start seeing tops or just starts kind of fading more, I will definitely be looking for a spike to short into, whether in the morning volatility in market hours or starting in that pre-market, maybe not, but certainly watching it for how it's moving now. See if we get more volume to come in. Probably going to get shorter play around with tops on PTPI again. For again, the range it's holding for where it's at on the daily. Maybe certainly got a lot of room to come back down. It's not a huge history of continuation of these types of moves, but again, respecting the same thing with BFRI, ISPC, LGVN. Respect the freaking price. There is no reason for these things to just keep going crazily high, but we gotta keep respecting why they are there. But still experimenting and playing with. Okay, I think we could potentially get a top here. There could be more downside. So might be looking to get short PTPI, and then CPIX was looking like it was moving pretty hard, pretty nice in these after hours here off of news. So we will see the same thing. That do we have strength coming in on this one? Pre-market tomorrow, is it just crazy volatile, chopping around VWAP, or is this kind of the top? Are we going to get a nice little fading action? I could see this one just from this point, 532 being the top, and it just becomes a perfect little downtrend fading line into market open tomorrow. And then whether it has a just immediate dump right at morning bell and just continue to do the same thing like APDN today, or it has kind of a little fake out, maybe call it a dip and rip, but return, reclaim to VWAP, reject off of that. I could see a lot of those different avenues happening. So keeping our eye on it to see what happens. I'm going to slam it hard either way on the paper side. So that is all I had. I think this is one of the longest daily trading recap videos I had. 4744, 4748, 4749, 4750. I sincerely thank you guys for watching. We will catch you guys on the next one.